And you can start whenever. Thanks all.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome everyone. My name is Diogo Geraldes. I'm head of education of the Oceanário de Lisboa. And first of all, I would like to thank you to this invitation to be able to be here today and share our experiences in ocean-related topics. So, and to have this opportunity to dynamize this training session called A Sustainable Blue Planet, Protecting, Innovating, and Educating. So today we'll talk about, of course, the ocean. I will do a brief introduction to the ocean. Then we'll talk about the global agenda for the ocean and about the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular SDG 14. After that, we'll talk about ocean conservation and marine protected areas, followed by an explanation what is bioeconomy, blue bioeconomy, and blue natural capital. And we will end up talking about the blue education and how to implement a blue curriculum. Of course, after that, we'll have some times for questions and everything. And to talk about all of these topics, I have with me my dear colleagues from the Oceano Azul Foundation and from the Oceanário de Lisboa, Sérgio Carvalho, Deputy Director, International Advocacy from the Oceano Azul Foundation. Also from the Oceano Azul Foundation, I have with me Diana Vieira, Ocean Conservation Project Manager, and Maria Feio, Blue Economy Project Manager. And of course, to talk about Blue Education, I have with me Rita Borges, Blue Education Project Manager from the Oceanário de Lisboa. So, to start, today we'll talk about the ocean. The ocean is a defining feature of our planet. In fact, we can call our planet Planet Ocean instead of Planet Earth. But first of all, I would like to know how would you describe the ocean in one word? What represents the ocean for you? So to do that, I would invite you to scan the QR code on the left corner and open a Mentimeter webpage and describe the ocean in one word, what the ocean represents for you. It's super easy, just scan the QR code and we'll start to have some answers here. Water, life. If you have any issue scanning the QR code or open the Mentimeter, you can also answer in the chat and put your answers in the chat. Wonder, vast, water, life, infinite. Amazing, diverse, super diverse, discovery. Vital, yes, for sure. Without the ocean, we don't have life, at least as we know it today. Just waiting for some another answers. Connection, yes. We used to say that the ocean is a unifying element of all mankind. Start, yes. The beginning of life, for sure. Let me check if I have any. Blue, yeah, I have one answer in the chat. Blue, yes. Mystery, yes. We have a lot to discover about the ocean. And purity, yes. Pristine. So we already have wild, wild, yes. Oh, peace, yes. Of course, let me wait just for if you have, let me check. Oh, we have a wild, yes. Mariana Trench, deep, I would say. Yes. So yeah, the ocean is the beginning of life. The ocean is pure. The ocean is formidable. Peace, it represents peace. It represents life. It's diverse. It's a connection between everything. And of course, it is also a mystery. We have a lot to discover in the ocean. So, and of course, as I said, the ocean is the defining feature of our planet. It covers 70% of the Earth's surface. And in this 70%, we can find 90% of the water that exists in our planet. 90% of the water that exists in our planet is salted water. And it represents a space for life to thrive, to evolve, and to to evolve. So it is represent also 99% of the biosphere, the space available to life. And in that space, from microalgae to huge algae such as kelps, it produces 50% of the oxygen that exists in our planet. For instance, one single species produces more than 20% of the oxygen that exists in our planet. It have a funny name called Plochlorococcus. And it is also in the ocean that 90% of the carbon dioxide is that exists in our planet exists, which is super important as a barrier for climate change. And it is also in this huge column of water, in this huge highway that all goods, all products, 90% of traded goods travel to arrive at our homes, at our shops, at our supermarkets. So the ocean is really, really important for our economy as well. And 3 billion people depends directly of the ocean to have food, of ocean products to feed. But I would say that 8 billion people depends of the ocean to live. Without the ocean, the life as we know it doesn't exist. And as Sylvia Harrell used to say, no ocean, no us. So I would like to say that the ocean has a message for us. We need to learn from the ocean. So let's listen a message from the ocean. So as you could see in the video, the ocean feeds us, the ocean embraces, the ocean let us live. But we are impacting the ocean as we never did before, and the ocean are facing many threats. So the next challenge for you is for you, what are the major threats to the ocean? And again, I would invite you to scan the QR code, or if you have the page still open, you can answer this question in the Mentimeter. What are the major threats to the ocean for you? Climate change, pollution, mankind. Yes, we are, as I said, we are impacting the ocean as we never did before. Deep sea mining, humans, litter, acidification, pollution. Sorry. Others. Yeah. I would say that humans and mankind are the major threat to the ocean because all of the others are caused by it, by humans. So, let me check in the pollution as well. We have some answers in the chat. Yes. So, yeah, we are impacting the ocean as we never did before. The ocean is facing many threats. Of course, climate change is one of them, and eutrophication is another. When we have a huge amount of nutrients and nitrogen coming to the ocean from land that create algae blooms, and that impact directly the marine life, avoiding the sunlight to reach the ocean and also releasing some harmful toxins. Moreover, as the algae dead, they sink and they are decomposed. They will be decomposed by bacteria that consumes a lot of oxygen, creating low oxygen zones in the ocean, called dead zones where no life can live. Also, as you said, climate change, and in climate change creates ocean acidification, which avoids from some species to create their skeletons, such as, for instance, coral reefs as well. It also raises the temperature, creating heat waves in the ocean, which also kill the reefs and other species. And for instance, coral reefs are home of 25% of all the marine species in the ocean, and of course, pollution, and all of that uh, with overfishing that you said as well, create the biodiversity loss and the decline of marine ecosystems, which we all depends on. That's why the United Nations create the Sustainable Development Goals to face these threats, to help the ocean to come and help us to combat these threats. And I will give the floor to Sergio to continue and to talk about the global agenda for the ocean and to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly the SDG 14. It's up to you, sir.
Thank you, Diogo, and I will start by sharing my screen and hoping that this will um, work and be seamless. Okay, here we go. So first of all, I want to greet everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here with you across different time zones. I'm really happy to be able to join my colleagues in doing this with you. Um, and as Diogo was saying, I'm here to talk to you about the ocean more broadly, but more specifically about SDG 14 and why we have SDG 14 and the challenges that Goal 14 tries to to address in what is a quite eventful year. We just had the third UN Ocean Conference with plenty of interesting outcomes, and now here we are back at reviewing Goal 14 in the context of the GLPI. So that's a lot to talk about. And I'm cognizant that this is meant to be more practical kind of session that is focused on solutions. And I want to speak to you about concrete solutions supporting implementation of Goal 14. But before doing so, I feel that we need to take a step back and discuss very briefly what Goal 14 is all about. And so let me begin by briefly revisiting why we have Goal 14 in the first place. When the 2030 agenda was adopted in 2015, the idea with Goal 14 was that the ocean would finally receive its dedicated global goal. After decades of fragmented efforts and the different conventions and institutions, we would finally have something integrated for the ocean. So Goal 14 emerged to consolidate ambition for the ocean and for ocean action in general. And specifically, among other things, for protecting marine ecosystems, tackling overfishing, reducing pollution, and ensuring the long-term sustainability of the ocean economy. Cognizant of the fact that the ocean has this massive crucial role as a climate regulator and life support system for humanity. But this was almost not to be. I don't know if you're aware of the history of Goal 14, but up until the very end of the negotiations of the 2030 agenda, it was not clear that we would have a Goal 14. In fact, the ocean and ocean issues were scattered around other SDGs, and it was only as a result of intense pressure that was put by a group of states, many of which from small island developing states, that we ended up with a standalone goal for the ocean. And so much so that, in fact, Goal 14 ended up being put together having to borrow targets from elsewhere, namely the Aichi targets under the CBD that were supposed to last only until 2020. And that's why many of the targets, you will see many of the targets of Goal 14 lapsed in 2020 and not 2030. And that's because they were, to a large extent, imported with some adjustments from the CBD and the Aichi targets in particular. But moving on from that history, so what does Goal 14 aim to achieve? SDG 14 has 10 targets, ranging from reducing marine pollution and addressing ocean acidification to ending overfishing, establishing marine protected areas, and increasing economic benefits to SIDS and LDCs through sustainable use of marine resources. And in terms of measurement, because measurement obviously has a big role to play here, measurement focus on a range of indicators such as proportion of fish stocks within biologically sustainable levels, coverage of marine protected areas, degree of implementation of ocean-related international instruments such as UNCLOS or instruments to combat illegal fishing, or also levels of marine debris and nutrient pollution. And so even if it may not be perfect, this combination of targets and indicators, what it offers us is a framework that provides, on the one hand, guidance on what needs to be done to improve ocean health, to tackle specific drivers of ocean degradation and to generate economic benefit for coastal communities, and on the other hand, tools for measuring progress. And speaking about progress, so Diogo already talked to you about the challenges, the main challenges that we have that we're facing in the ocean today. We already talked about the targets and what was meant to to help us address those challenges. So the question is where we are. Where are we in terms of implementation of Goal 14? And unfortunately, progress has been uneven and insufficient. A significant proportion of fish stocks remain exploited. Marine pollution, especially plastics and nutrient runoff, continues to increase. Only about 8% of the ocean is designated as protected areas with varying degrees of effective management. And climate change is intensifying the threats through warming, acidification, and deoxygenation. So here in this slide, you have some further discouraging statistics that were taken from last year's report to the HLPF. I've been flipping through the report of this year, and the picture is not that different. And so we still continue to have significant challenges. However, there are also some positives, and there have been some positive developments. So there's growing momentum for a global plastics treaty. We had, of course, the adoption of the BBNJ treaty, and from Nice, we learned that we are almost there in terms of crossing that threshold for the entry into force of the treaty. And we have also coming from Nice, good news in terms of it's not enough, but we have good news in terms of expansion of marine protected areas in several regions. However, this implementation gap remains wide, especially where capacity and resources are limited. And this is why global efforts are critical. And in particular, in the context of the UN Ocean conferences, because their goal is precisely to mobilize further action to support Goal 14 and to close the implementation gap. And another piece of history for you, the UN Ocean Conference was an invention born out of a moment of panic, as it were, when that group of countries that I was telling you about earlier managed to succeed in terms of creating a standalone goal for the ocean. They realized that the ocean didn't actually have a home. So unlike FAO for food security or WHO for health or UNFCCC for climate, the ocean didn't have a common roof, as it were, because mandates are divided between different entities and organizations. And so the question at the time was, now that we have a goal on ocean, how to make sure that we mobilize sufficient action and commitment and resources to support implementation. And this was the gap that the UN Ocean Conference seeks to fill. And we have already 3 UNOCs. We are hoping to have another one before 2030. And these conferences have been essentially in generating momentum towards further action to implement Goal 14. But it's still not enough. And that's why so many organizations, such as Ocean Rule and many others, spend most of their waking hours trying to think about how best can we support actions that produce tangible change, tangible results on the ground, contributing not only to support Goal 14, but also to support ocean health more broadly. And now I want to turn to some of the solutions very briefly that we have been working on the ground that, as the title of the presentation suggests, contribute to elevating the ocean in global agendas and elevating the global action. My colleagues will speak about some of the things that make us more excited here at the foundation and lead to more palpable outcomes, such as working with communities on the establishment and management of MPAs, projects in the field of blue bioeconomy and ocean literacy, but these will come later. You'll have to stay tuned. But I have myself some interesting solutions to share with you in the realm of engaging civil society organizations, policy advocacy, and capacity building programs. First, I want to tell you that we strongly believe in the power of civil society organizations to accelerate transformative ocean action. Their involvement ensures ownership, transparency, accountability on the ground. And a key example is our support to Rise Up, a blue call to action, which is a global civil society movement mobilizing ambitious commitments for the ocean. And this has created a unified voice that pushes governments to raise their level of action. And you can get involved. I'm happy to later on share some more information on how you can get involved with Rise Up. We also invest a lot in policy advocacy tools that translate science into actionable messages for decision makers, enabling them to adopt policies aligned with SDG 14 targets. One of such areas is our work to promote ratification and implementation of the BNJ agreement. We support dialogues and resource sharing to accelerate countries' capacity to join and implement the treaty. Another area is our engagement with the International Tibet Authority, advocating for the precautionary principle and science-based approaches to deep sea mining that prioritize ocean health and equity for all humankind and provide necessary resources and information for countries to make decisions in an informed manner. Yet another area is our work at the Ocean Climate Biodiversity Nexus, promoting the integration of ocean actions into NDCs, called the blue NDCs, to ensure that the ocean is fully embedded within climate action. And finally, we recognize that none of this can be achieved without building knowledge and skills. Capacity building programs are, in our view, central to everything we do, enabling countries and stakeholders to implement ocean targets effectively. And for us, when we talk about innovation, we're not only talking about technological innovation, science-related innovation. We talk about also innovation in human capital. That's essential. And one of those initiatives in terms of capacity building is one that I'm very proud of, is UN Portugal Ocean Fellowship, which empowers professionals from developing countries, in particular SIDS, equipping them with tools, knowledge, and networks to become effective ocean leaders in their countries and communities. I can talk to you about this fellowship in more detail later on. We're running a little bit late, so I'll probably skip a more detailed presentation of this. I just want to tell you that you can still apply for the second edition of this fellowship that will take place this year between the 20th and the 24th of October. And we would be very happy to count on your applications and have you join us for this fellowship that we are launching. It was the second edition we're launching together with Portugal and UN DESA. And so moving fast to the last slide, just to tell you that looking into the future as we approach 2030 and beyond, we need to ask ourselves what should be the next chapter for ocean sustainability. I think we need to ask ourselves if we just want to upgrade SDG 14 and turn it into SDG 14 plus with targets potentially aligned with the Kunming Montreal biodiversity framework, or if we should aim at something more comprehensive, more ambitious that responds in scale and reach the scale and urgency of the ocean challenges. And I would say that the reflection needs to start now because we have only a few more years before we have to adopt whatever comes after the 2030 agenda. I can talk to you a little bit later about some of the ideas that we already have in terms of what should populate this new ocean agenda. For the time being, I will just say that obviously one thing is the agenda and the targets that we might set up. Another thing is implementation and the ability and skills to implement. And I believe that's still a lot of work that can be done, should be done in this sphere. So I'll stop here and hand over the floor back to Diogo, and I'm very happy to answer later on any questions that
Thank you, Sergio. So we will continue with Diana, who will talk us about marine protected areas and ocean conservation. Diana, the floor is yours.
I hope that you are listening to this presentation.
Yes.
So hi, my name is Diana, and I will focus today on marine protected areas as a way to advance marine conservation, and also focus on the ability of the access of the population used. But before going into that, I would like to briefly talk about this international commitment because we all know that the protection and the international community has been involved in science peace, so we have a lot of agreements and goals. One of them, 30 by 30, we have to reach 30% of the rating for protected to the 2030. But how are we right now? So unfortunately, I did really ambitious goal and commitment. We are still really far behind with the 30% goal. Only have 2.8% of the ocean.
Sorry, Diana. Open your mic. I will close mine because
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that you can hear me. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I think so. Okay, great. So carry on. As I was saying, only 2.8% of the ocean is fully or highly protected right now, and the worrisome part of this is that only 30% of the ocean remains intact. So we do know that we need to save what's left and restore what was lost, but we are not doing it at the scale or speed, nor are we having the impact that we should have to reach this goal of protecting the sea by 2030. So what can I tell you about this is that we know that marine protection works. We know that marine protected areas are a great tool, but it depends on how we do it and how quick we do it and which level of protection we are trying to apply here. Because if we go to fully or highly protected marine protected areas, we will have larger impact and lightly or minimally protected. So it really comes to how you do this protection and how you make it happen. And with that in mind, we at the Oceano Azul Foundation have three main models of work that we apply, and I will talk to you about our case studies. So we have this first model that is a network of MPAs, that it's a mix between a top-down and a bottom-up strategy, and it's applied more at a national or regional scale. Then we have the MPAs of community initiative that are more of a bottom-up strategy in coastal areas with a lot of uses and a lot of conflicts. And then we have this remote MPAs model in which we have more of a top-down strategy in remote areas with pristine, even really important values. So the first model that I would like to bring you is the one of the network of MPAs, and our case study is the Blue Azores case study. So this is a project led by the government of the Azores and in partnership with Oceano Azul Foundation and the Wait Institute. And its main goal is to protect, promote, and value the marine natural capital of the Azores. So this was and is a top-down approach because it's led by the government, but at the same time, it's also a bottom-up approach because the stakeholders were heard and were involved, and they had something to say when it came up to developing this network of marine protected areas. And the good news is that last year, the Azorean government classified this network of marine protected areas. So the Azores has now 30% of its EEZs protected, of which 15% are fully protected and 15% are highly protected. So this is really, really great news. And in this map, you can really see the extent of it. So this gray shaded area in the middle of the map is the EEZ of the Azores, and the blue areas are the protected areas, the marine protected areas of this network. So this can give you a full understanding of how large this is, because this is the largest marine protected area network of marine protected areas of the Atlantic North. The second model that I would like to talk to you about is the coastal one. So this is a model that it's developed by and with the community. We have two case studies where we applied this model. The first one was in the Algarve Reef, and the second one is in Cascais, Mafra, and Sintra municipalities. There are three municipalities just near Lisbon, our capital, here in Portugal. And they are really in two different stages. So the Algarve Reef one is already classified, so it's already a reality. We already have a marine protected area there. And Cascais Mapra Sintra one, we are now replicating the model that we used in the Algarve Reef. And how is it that we do this? So we have this kind of a roadmap in which we first assess the natural values of a specific area and then develop the studies and baseline studies needed to complement this information, natural values, socioeconomic studies as well. And all this information is going to support a participatory process. And what is this? We involve everyone in the community because we have a coastal area with a lot of uses, a lot of conflicts, and we have to involve all stakeholders beforehand so that they can be with us co-creating this marine protected areas. So they are really heard. We have participatory sessions and where we co-design these marine protected areas and develop a whole dossier that is going to be delivered to the government, and then the government can classify the marine protected area and then implement it, of course. And so that you can have an idea of what happened in the Algarve. This was the final product of our roadmap. So we did the participatory process and all the studies and delivered to the government this dossier that had the natural value studies, the socioeconomic studies, the participatory process, all documented, and the proposal for this new marine protected area. And we handed to the government, and then last year in January, the government classified this marine protected area. In the Algarve, we had more than 70 entities represented, so we had more than 70 stakeholders. We had 7 participatory meetings, like big meetings, to define all this process, and more than 60 bilateral meetings to come up to a solution on how to protect that reef in the Algarve. And now we are trying to replicate that, but here near Lisbon. The last model that I want to talk to you about is the remote one, and I have 2 case studies to talk to you about with. And the first one is Selvagens Island. So Selvagens Island are some islands near Madeira. And in this model, we have these remote areas with almost no uses, with really important natural values. And what we try to do is we get as much information as we can on that area, natural values information, and then go to the governments and say, you have to protect this. Look at these natural values. This is really important. This is pristine. You should be protecting it. And that's why it's a top-down approach, because we go to governments and with their help, we can try and establish a marine protected area. And then we have the Gorringe case study. So Gorringe is a seamount off the coast of Portugal. And actually last year, we developed a scientific expedition to the seamount together with the Oceanário de Lisboa, the Portuguese Navy, and the National Authority for Conservation, that it's ECNF. And we gathered as much information as we could on natural values in that area. So we had a lot of vessels, different methods, a lot of scientists from all over the world, and collected all the information and put it into a scientific report that was delivered to the government. And based on this scientific report and also on previous expeditions and information that other partners and other institutions have done to that place, our Portuguese Minister for the Environment announced at UNOC a month ago that the Gorringe is going to be a marine protected area. So it was a huge commitment, and we are now in the phase where we are trying to understand how it's going to be done, what kind of protection is going to have, and we are going to advocate for a fully protected area. And yeah, it was a great accomplishment, really. So my main message for today, and that I would like you to take on, is that we can have a lot of ways of trying to establish marine protected areas, but all of them have to have certain conditions to have success. So we have to have a science-based process. We have to use the best standards available and the best available knowledge to support the development of these marine protected areas. We have to set clear vision and objectives to this marine protected area. So we need to know why are we protecting this area and why do we want to and how are we going to do it. We need to involve all stakeholders. This is a really important part because especially in coastal areas where you have a lot of uses, you really have to have everyone involved from the start, because if they are not involved from the start, the MPA will not be successful, because they need to be involved and they need to want to have it happen in their backyards. Also, we know that only high level protection works, so we need to advocate for fully and highly protected in order to have impact. And also, and this is common to all projects that we know, we need to have adequate means and resources to allow the success of MPAs in all stages of establishment, because without that, it's going to be a bit impossible to fund and source this all of this work that needs to be done. And now I think I'm going to pass the word to Diogo again, and I'm happy to reply to any questions that you have at the end. Thank you.
My sound on. So thank you, Diana, for your amazing presentation about marine protected areas. So moving on to Maria Feio to talk about blue economy and blue natural capital. So let's go, Maria.
Hi, everyone. I will just share my screen. Can everyone see it? Okay. Hi, I'm Maria. I also work in Oceano Azul Foundation in the area of the blue economy, and I'm going to talk a bit about some concepts today. So first, what is this? What is the blue bioeconomy? So some of you are probably familiar with the concepts of blue economy, which tries to uses the ocean in a more sustainable way. And blue bioeconomy is kind of a branch of the blue economy where it depends on healthy marine resources to prosper. So this bioeconomy uses the healthy marine resources to create new products that can go in different sectors, like the food, the cosmetics, the medicine, create new materials. But all of these really depends on healthy marine resources to prosper. And this is something that is already being developed. It's not an idea of the future. And I bring you here three cases to show that. One is a startup from Fish Leather. It's a Canadian startup that uses waste from fish skin to create leather that can be used on shoes and bags. So it uses the waste to create something that it's amazing. The second one is Bzeos. Bzeos uses brown algae to create a substitute for plastic that is biodegradable. And the third one is the Origin by Ocean that also uses algae and its main properties to create cosmetics. But as I was saying, all of this depends on the ocean, this living system that we all depend on, and it is made by Blue Natural Capital. That is the second concept I will talk about. The Blue Natural Capital includes all the small and big ecosystems that we can think about. It can go, we normally divide these into assets and flows. The assets is the fish, the sponge, the corals, and the minerals. And the flows, it's also the capacity of the ocean to capture carbon, filter the water. And all of this we call Blue Natural Capital. So it can have like an economic value. We know that $44 trillion of the global economy depends on the natural resources, but only 1% goes to the ocean, like sustainable ocean investments, which is really low. So the Oceano Azul Foundation defends a lot this new vision for the blue bioeconomy, where we have a valued, a rich natural capital that depends on healthy ecosystems. And for this, we should invest more in marine protected areas that Diana talked about later, because by investing in those MPAs, we are investing in the infrastructure that after can generate money from the blue bioeconomy. So by aligning all of this, the climate, biodiversity, investing in conservation, we can then take advantage of this in a sustainable way, of course, to create innovation that will bring us more economic return. This is just a paradigm, a different way of doing the economy than the one we are used to, because it's not extractive. We are respecting the way the ecosystems exist, and we take advantage of them, but without harming them. And we can generate even more value, but not only economic value like the one we are used to, but also value for the communities and for the planet itself, not just for the way we do our economy. So this mindset shift is really important. So instead of continue to take and extract from the ocean, we need to create value with the ocean. And we will understand that with a healthy ocean, it's not only the ocean that will prosper, but also us and the entire planet. That's it. I will move again to Diogo.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for your amazing presentation. So let's continue with Blue Education and with Rita. Rita, I will give you the floor.
Thank you, Diogo. Sorry. Hello, everybody. We already heard here about the importance of having relevant ocean policies, of implementing MPAs and protecting the ocean.
It's not working. You have to.
Unmute here. Can you hear me now? Okay, so we already heard about the importance of having strong policies for the ocean, of implementing marine protected areas and conserving the ocean, because all its importance that Diogo also mentioned, and the importance of having a strong new sustainable blue economy. But for all this to be implemented and to happen and to be valued, we need to have a society that is knowledgeable and connected with the ocean. And that is why ocean literacy is so important. And it's key. We need to have citizens that really understand this importance of the ocean as a sustainable, as a supportive system to the planet. It's important to humankind. We need to know how to communicate about the ocean in a meaningful way, and to be informed and take decisions that are responsible regarding the ocean and its resources. This is the definition of an ocean literate citizen. And ocean literacy has multiple dimensions, but of course that education is one of them and is foundational, because we need to have these new generations of students that become empowered, not just with knowledge and awareness about the ocean, but that develop principles, values, and competencies that are really crucial in this century with this constantly changing world. So also, it's not just about knowledge, it's also about emotional connection with the ocean. We need to know, we need to feel, so that we can value and protect. That is why it's also important to foster this nature connectedness, and in particular with the ocean. So we need to have new attitudes and a behavioral change in our daily decisions so that we really work all together to have a more sustainable development and a more sustainable planet. This is why ocean literacy is so important, and bringing the ocean to our educational systems is absolutely crucial. And there are a lot of recent frameworks and recommendations in order to include the ocean in education. It is really important that students can learn about this importance, about the complexity of our relationship with the ocean in its multiple dimensions. So we have recommendations not just from the European Union in the Mission Starfish 2030 with targets that to implement ocean contents in curricula and syllabus. We also have recent publications from IOC UNESCO, namely this one that is here, New Blue Curriculum, with a lot of recommendations to policymakers on how what can be done to include the ocean into education. This year, this promoting ocean literacy and education policy brief that also highlights the importance of including the ocean topics into the curricula to well empower teachers with training and educational resources that can be useful for their daily life. And also, of course, within this decade, the UN Ocean Decade, we have one of these challenges that is related with improving the society relationship with the ocean. And of course, that education is also central in this regard. And we also tried to define, because we work in close collaboration with the Portuguese Ministry of Education, and we try to identify what should be the profile of this blue generation, these students that are subject to this education for the ocean since they are young and along the compulsory education years. And so we identified in this document here what should be the values, the principles, and the competencies that students should develop to become ocean literate citizens. And also in a high-level panel, a UN high-level panel on the teaching profession, this is so important that one recommendation included also the need to well-prepared teachers with training and with resources, and to include the ocean topics into the curricula about the ocean and climate, because this is also linked. The nexus between the climate and the ocean cannot be separated. And this year, for the first time, the United Nations Ocean Conference, the political declaration, included the mention to ocean literacy. So ocean literacy is becoming increasingly recognized as being really crucial to this. And why don't teachers teach more about the ocean? Because there are some barriers that are well identified that prevent teachers to teach more about the ocean. Because what's happening in the ocean is below the surface line, and so we cannot see, it's not close to our eyes. And so this also leads to this incapacity that teachers have to talk more about the ocean. They don't feel comfortable with these topics, and the need to have also adequate resources and specific training so that they can feel more empowered to talk about this, among other barriers that should be overcome. And so, because we have this ambition that in Portugal we can have a blue curriculum, we designed a program called Educating a Blue Generation that considers teachers at its core. And so we prepare teachers with training, with high quality training that is certified and useful and relevant for them, and with educational resources that help teachers, that guide teachers to talk about the ocean when they are teaching mathematics or science or Portuguese, for instance. And this is focused in the first 4 years of education, so primary level education. And so we connected, our model was very important to connect with strategic partners. Since the beginning, we connected and engaged the Ministry of Education of Portugal, and we were asked to implement a pilot program and to evaluate that pilot program. So that's what we've done since 2018. And we teach teachers about the ocean. We give them the tools that they need to be more confident and comfortable to talk about the ocean as a tool, because this can be used as a cross-cutting topic to be explored in all the disciplines. And so teachers nowadays in Portugal, in these municipalities where we've been implementing, that were also our partners, we've been implementing this pilot program, and the result of this evaluation is good. And I have a video that showcases a little bit what is this program and where we are now.
Devemos tratar do mar. Ajudar o oceano é o nosso papel.
Sem o oceano não haveria vida na Terra e é fundamental que todos compreendam a importância que este sistema tem para o equilíbrio do planeta. E esta consciência deve começar desde cedo, integrada na educação das crianças, que serão os líderes do futuro. A Fundação Oceano Azul e o Oceanário de Lisboa, em colaboração com a Direção-Geral da Educação, desenharam um programa educativo que integra o oceano no currículo do primeiro ciclo e que tem os professores no centro desta transformação.
Quando a Fundação Oceano Azul apresentou o programa Educar para a Geração Azul ao Ministério da Educação, foi um passo muito importante, porque percebemos também a preocupação de que tínhamos que inserir no currículo a literacia do oceano. Uma iniciativa da sociedade civil que se converte numa política pública de criar este currículo, que é um currículo do saber, mas também é um currículo para a ação.
Dar a conhecer aquilo que existe é meio caminho andado para podermos proteger e salvar aquilo que nós temos. É uma espécie de força motriz. Primeiro temos que ser nós os exemplos como professores, para depois levarmos para dentro das salas de aula de uma forma correta e formar a tal geração azul.
Tendo atenção que nós vivemos no arquipélago dos Açores, é o mar que nos une todas estas 9 ilhas. Os alunos em Santa Maria já têm a percepção de que todas estas atividades que eles estão a desenvolver têm um impacto no meio ambiente.
O oceano é o pulmão da Terra, que sem ele não vivemos. Mas só que nós também comemos o que ele tem na barriga, que é o lixo. Esta coleção é muito importante. O meu pai precisa de ler este livro.
Estamos a desenvolver um projeto de classificação do Recife Rochoso Pedra do Valado e com esta área de classificação é muito importante que inclua os nossos alunos também.
Após estes 5 anos e a avaliação de impacto, nós podemos dizer que temos aqui um modelo que pode ser replicado. Temos mais literacia do oceano nas nossas escolas.
O objetivo agora seria conseguir escalar este programa para a escala nacional, chegar aos mais de 20 mil professores do primeiro ciclo de educação, que esta é a maneira de conseguirmos transformar uma geração de cidadãos mais azuis, mais conscientes da importância do oceano para as suas vidas, para a vida do país, para a vida do planeta.
So this program started as a pilot program. Like we were asked, we did evaluate, and the results of a longitudinal process of 4 years of evaluation have allowed us to improve, to understand what needed some changes, but also shows that teachers feel empowered to talk about the ocean, that students know more, that they are more active towards ocean conservation, and that they develop cross-cutting competencies that are essential for sustainable development. And those children books that you see in the video are for a collection of 4 books that are available for everyone as e-books in this website here, only in Portuguese by now, but we are translating to English, and so hopefully soon we will also have them in English. And to also show you that these results led the Minister of Education by that time to ask us, okay, so you create a working group, involve multiple stakeholders that are relevant in education, and propose us how to scale up this program to all the country. Because this program makes that thing that brings the ocean into the curriculum of the first cycle of education. So we delivered to the Ministry of Education this proposal with a set of recommendations, and we were also consulted in the scope of current revision of essential learnings, and we delivered to the Ministry of Education a proposal for a blue curriculum, not just for the first years, but from the first to the 12th grade, along the compulsory education, in every discipline where we thought there was space to give a more blue lenses, we delivered this proposal. So it's not just about empowering teachers, but also about empowering students. And we keep challenging teachers and students for ocean action. And I leave you with this challenge called Mini 30 by 30 that is still going on. We basically challenge students to subscribe an open letter to the United Nations calling for the member states for bold action towards the 30 by 30 target to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. We have produced resources for teachers to talk about this in class in 4 different languages, and now also in Japanese. We're going to Osaka at this moment. And so in this website, you'll find everything. And the idea is that to mobilize students to the importance of marine protected areas, to the importance of protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. And in the first 2 months, we had more than 9,300 students of 27 different countries subscribing this letter that was delivered to the United Nations during the United Nations Ocean Conference. And the next stop will be the COP30. So we invite all of you, if you have connections with schools and with networks of schools and so on, that NGOs that work with schools, please spread the words and try to mobilize more and more students to this ocean action. And that's it. Thank you very much. Sorry, I finalized with some other information, other networks and other links that can be useful also for all of you who know teachers or who are teachers and want to know more and to be more empowered to teach about the ocean. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rita, and thank you, all of the speakers. I just shared all the links that Rita talked about all the documents that Rita talked about on chat. Also, Sergio shared the Ocean Fellowship link as well. So it's now time for your questions. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please share it on the chat, please. And I think we already have one, and I think it's for you, Rita. Is the ocean curriculum incorporated in the science curricula?
Can I?
Yeah.
So currently not much. what we want is that the ocean becomes incorporated not just in science curricula, but also in all the disciplines, geography, economy. So whenever there is this opportunity to also give examples from the ocean, we want that to happen. And of course, also in the citizenship discipline, and also as a tool for this more flexibility that is now existing in schools, for schools to decide topics that they want to approach in a cross-cutting way. So we give the schools and the teachers the tools to do so.
Thank you, Rita. And any other questions for the other speakers about blue economy, global agenda, SDGs, MPAs? Please feel free to share your questions with us. Okay, we have another one here. How possible are the goals you feel like to reach about ocean education, especially for nations not yet part of the EU, especially in island nations like Philippines, where I'm currently in? And again, I think it's for you, Rita.
Sorry. So as I told you, there are these networks. UNESCO has a lot of resources and frequently training sessions for different types of stakeholders. And there are many resources produced already in different languages. So I think, and mobilizing the right actors since the beginning, and it's very important to include the policy makers, the education policy makers in the process since the beginning, and make them understand the relevance and the urgency of teaching about the ocean. So I think with these new opportunities of training and resources that are already available, it is possible. There are networks of blue schools that are increasing, not just in Europe, but also more abroad. So again, United Nations, the UNESCO is implementing this global blue school network. And these blue schools also create the opportunity to challenge schools. So you can combine these more formal education opportunities with more informal methods of bringing the ocean into schools.
Thank you, Rita. And I think you have another question here. How can we implement this initiative in Angola?
Well, Angola is a Portuguese-speaking country, and I think, of course, we'll be happy to detail a bit more about our experience, because it takes time. We need to assemble the right stakeholders if you want to do it in the same model as we did. But we will be happy to talk in more detail. These resources by now, like I've shown you in this website, are in Portuguese, so you are free to use them and to somehow, if you think you can gather the right stakeholders to make this in a structured way and with the capacity to be scaled, because we consider that this needs to be relevant, and it's not just a program here and there. We want this to happen in a very consistent way in the territories. So by joining all the right stakeholders, it is possible.
Thank you, Rita. Now, which website? It's in our website that I shared on the chat before. I will share again. But now moving to blue economy and to Maria. Regarding blue economy, how can we make sure that the local and indigenous communities can benefit from it? And are there any measurements in place to protect marine ecosystems as the ocean industries expand?
Hi, thank you for the question.
Can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so actually, the Oceano Azul Foundation, till last year, we had an accelerator program on blue bioeconomy. So we had the chance also to work with the local indigenous communities. And it was really interesting because you can see that for the blue bioeconomy to prosper, you need everyone from everywhere to be on the same page. And we could see a lot of times, for example, indigenous communities to develop the farming of algae, because you have a lot of innovation right now coming from the use of invasive species, but that's not sustainable long term. You need to have a way to also use algae that is farmed in a sustainable way. And we could see with our accelerator program that a lot of indigenous communities were taking this role of producing the algae that then startups could also use. And in this way, you could have a value chain of everyone contributing for innovation. For the second part of your question, if there are any measurements in place to protect marine ecosystems as the ocean industries expand. Well, here in this case, unfortunately, this depends a lot on the governance of each country. We know that in Europe, for example, we have a lot of measures that companies need to have. For example, detergents is a super pollutant industry, and in Europe, you have a lot of requirements of things that can't go to the ocean, the way things are discarded. So it always depends on each country, but I think it's good to look up for countries that are doing things right, or even in Europe, what are the measures that are required to all industries. And then you can try to find out specifically for the industry that you want to look at, if it's medicines, food, and try to look for good examples to influence. Because if startups and companies start to embrace those measures, then we will see a pressure on government to make everyone do it. I hope I answered to your question.
Thank you, Maria. I think someone raised his hand, and we can open the mic to put your question. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm a teacher. I come from China, and I want to share my experience about the ocean education. I have I once performed marine themed shadow play for my students. It told the story of two children who explored a mangrove forest, discovering shrimps and Chinese horseshoe crabs. The marine animals shared that humans had discarded waste amounts of trash into the ocean, polluting the seas and making them feel very sad. I think that it is very important for us to share some the blue education for students, also the adults. And I hope I can join you, the team, to learn some more ways to give the blue education for my students. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience and to want to join us and to engage your students in ocean action. Thank you. So let's moving on. I think the next question is not just for you, Rita, but I will open it to all the speakers who wants to answer. Because in what ways can we educate adult individuals that are victims of misinformation or are general and uninformed. I don't know if you want who wants to answer, and because I think it's more than education, it's about fake news and so on, and about real information.
I think we need to, you can keep it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we need to engage everyone and listen to people, and then, of course, connect with them so that then we can somehow make ocean literacy actions with them, but they need to have our trust. And for this, I think it's very important when you are working with local communities, for instance, when trying to implement a marine protected area, to have this bottom-up process. And I think maybe Diana can talk a little bit more about this, what kind of engagement is being done, so that people understand, for instance, that marine protected areas can improve fisheries, for instance.
Yeah.
That sometimes is not immediate understood.
Can you hear me? And now, yeah, that's exactly what Rita was saying. We need to have this bottom-up approach in which we involve all stakeholders and involve the community and give them the stage, because there's so much that we learn from them as well. It's not only us trying to show them what we know, but we should be uh, keen on learning with them as well, because there's a lot of local knowledge and a lot of traditional knowledge that we are not aware of, and it's really important to try and deconstruct these misconceptions that sometimes they have. But that's the starting point is involve them and open a dialogue and having them all seated with us at the same table, at the same level, talking, just having conversations about whatever to have and earn their trust, and then slowly deconstructing some misconceptions and misinformations and showing them what is the best ways to proceed, how are the communities going to be benefited by the creation of marine protected areas, how marine protected areas can in fact help them increase their income when we were talking about fisheries, for instance. So it's more about this open channel of communication that we need to have with them, and also try to find the local voices, the local active voices that we have in the communities that will be really powerful persons and people, vocal people, to help us bring our message to the communities. And then, of course, we can have all sorts of activities. We can have workshops, sessions, literacy sessions. We can invite scientists to talk with them, always trying to have this dialogue, not complex dialogue, but simple dialogue, so that everyone can understand. Because sometimes scientists tend to overcomplicate things, and it's better in a simple way to have everyone understand things, and making it easier for them to connect with us and with the problems that we face, and show them solutions, not only problems, and make them a part of the decision. And I think that's mostly it.
I can also link to.
I hope you can hear me okay. Just to add, sorry about this. Just to add a couple of words from my side. I think my colleagues mentioned the most important elements. But adding to that, I think it starts with literacy, with education, but it continues with science, with data, with producing that knowledge and updating that knowledge constantly. But it doesn't end there. It's crucial that we create the social, the cultural, and institutional conditions that enable this knowledge reaching the people and reaching common folks as well as decision makers, and creating these circumstances and making sure that this data reaches the people that that it needs to reach is absolutely crucial. And sometimes we miss on that. And a last point is one that is echoing what Rita said, which is about creating the spaces for engagement. Sometimes the information is out there, we are able to reach the people, but we are not creating the spaces, the platforms where people can speak with one another, can share their doubts, can share their concerns, can share perhaps some misinformation, and a conversation can start around those issues, and some doubts and some misinformation can be clarified, and people can end or leave that conversation in a better place and better informed.
Thank you, Sergio. So, Sergio, Diana, and Rita, for your amazing insights. So, next question regarding science-based ocean conservation that requires public participation. Would like to hear your experience successfully engaging all stakeholders. We can start with you, Sergio, again. And
public participation. I think Diana mentioned the most important elements around public participation, and I would say it's not only about ocean conservation. It's about everything that we do in the ocean, everything that we try to do in terms of regulation. In terms of the enabling framework for the things that need to happen, I think public participation is essential. That's why I mentioned in my presentation that we put a lot of attention and resources into activating these grassroots organizations and mobilizing key stakeholders that are very important in essentially shaping what needs to be done. And I think Diana already mentioned that sometimes the people closer to the ocean, the communities, the indigenous peoples and communities, they're the ones that are closer to the ocean. They're closer to the challenges. They're closer to the activities that are related to the ocean. They're the better placed peoples in order to inform decision making and share information that will be absolutely crucial in order to allow decision makers to get to the best possible decisions, either on conservation or any other aspect of ocean management. But maybe Diana has a bit more to add to this.
Yeah, thank you, Sergio. Building on that, and maybe speaking a little bit into a more specific case study, that is the Algarve one. So we had this involvement of all stakeholders. We had more than 70 entities involved in the process of co-creating the marine protected area. And it is a process. So it started in 2016, and actually it was a member from the community that came to us because he was at that reef. He was a diving. He still is a diving scuba diving operator, and he came to us and said, "Look, I'm seeing the fish stocks declining. I'm seeing the reef being degraded day by day. I need your help to protect it." And so it was really easy to have this openness of the community because we already had some local people and local voices that really helped us get into the community and reach them and have our message pass through. But we had all of these meetings where they were all heard, they were all involved. The importance of this process, and the main point that I would like you to keep in mind is that it needs to be really open and transparent. So we have to share everything with everyone. They all need to have access to all information that we have. And it was a challenging process. There were, I'm not going to lie to you, there were some meetings where some people raised up some conflicts, and there were some tensions around. But at the end, when we discussed everything and we put everything out in the open, it's easier to find solutions and to have people listen to each other and try together to find this solution for an area that it's there. So it's their own backyard they are trying to protect. It's their own backyard that they are using and are trying not to destroy. So it was a challenge, and it still is a challenge because we still keep them involved in everything that we do regarding to the marine protected area. But the key here is dialogue, is to have everyone speaking, and I think that's it.
Thank you, Diana. So we are running out of time, but I think we still have time for more two questions, and I have you one, maybe for Maria. How do we convince industry to look at long-term benefits of ocean conservation as opposed at short-term benefits of ocean degradation?
So here, I think right now, this is not, unfortunately, it's not a one answer question. But for example, on marine protection, I don't know if Diana knows the name of the region, but I remember our scientific director to show us a picture. I think it was from Mexico or somewhere in Africa. Where you could, it was a region that we took some pictures before it was protected, and you had no fish at all. And after the protection, they went there again, and it was full of fish. And marine protected areas have these benefits also for industries, in this case for the fishers industry, because since the marine protected areas have no walls, you can benefit from the spillover effects. So the areas around marine protected areas are allowed for fishers to go. So you can increase a lot the value of the fish that you consume in that country. And this one, I think it's one of the best concrete examples of how an industry can benefit from ocean conservation is by combining marine protection in the country. But there are also others, and it's interesting for industries to look for other metrics, not only for GDP. For example, we know that in China, in some regions, they also compare the GDP, but for a healthy ecosystem. So how the local communities benefit from the natural resources that are healthy in terms of happiness and productivity for their work, because they are getting more from nature. So there are some things that we can look for. Actually, the foundation is now starting a project on how to value blue natural capital and how we can answer this question in a more concrete way. How can the industries benefit from ocean conservation, and having more examples that are only just from MPAs and fishers, but for other industries.
Thank you, Maria. And one last question, because we have here two questions, but I will do these two questions in one, because it's about the people who doesn't care about the ocean, that doesn't see the ocean, and people that lives in landlocked countries. So how can we make ocean-related issues seem real and tangible and build that emotional connection for children, and I would say adults as well, who live in landlocked countries or non-coastal cities?
I think that we need to first show that there are no barriers. So even though for those landlocked territories, the ocean has influence in people's lives, the ecosystem services that the marine ecosystems provide are multiple. And for instance, the regulation of climate change affects everyone. So we can teach about the ocean. We do have municipalities that are landlocked in the program, and this connection is really important to be understood. And nowadays there are the power of communication is really strong. And so with good documentaries, with virtual reality glasses and so on, nowadays it is possible to foster this emotional connection everywhere. So there are resources for doing so.
So, very easy to follow up on what Rita said. The ocean impacts everything, the whole planet. And if you haven't watched Sir David Attenborough's last movie, I would definitely recommend it. Not only because it's great to create that emotional connection with the ocean, but also because he says something that is incredibly impactful, at least for me, and for many that have watched it, which is if you want to save our planet, we need to save our ocean. And this gives you an idea of how important it is, ocean health for the whole planet. And actually, if you look at the SDGs, they kind of give you a blueprint of that. SDG 14 is deeply interconnected with other SDGs. Healthy ocean, support of food security, which is goal 2. It supports livelihoods and decent work. It supports global health. If we manage to sustainably take care of our ocean, it contributes massively to climate action by absorbing carbon and regulating climate and absorbing the excess heat released to the atmosphere. And so it underpins life on land through all the interconnected ecosystems. So I really believe that ocean action and Goal 14 is crucial in and of itself, just because of the importance of the ocean, but also because Goal 14 and everything that happens in the ocean is a foundation for life on planet and a foundation for achieving the entire 2030 agenda.
Thank you, everyone. What a way to end up this conversation and this session. And it's up to me to say you goodbye and say thank you for being present in this training session. It was amazing to have here more than 60 people participating in this workshop, in this webinar. I hope we are able to inspire you and to engage you in this ocean action activity, I would say. And I would like to end up with a positive message to finish this session, because it all depends on us. It all depends on our action and our behaviors, and we still have time to have a sustainable future and to have a sustainable ocean. So thank you all.